Hey, how's it going?
Throw?
The thing is that
This is an extremely regular comp so far. Here we go, that's pretty regular.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I play to win!
If only the world could see
This is
the
a
wonders that science has built.
single point map. We need to kill the bad guys and not complain about lineups. Good, perfect.
What's up, everybody? It's the Haitian Homie, and we're here with another new segment. So if you didn't see my last video a couple days ago, we're going to start some new kind of podcasty sort of analysis kind of stuff where I'm going to talk about different things within the Overwatch world, whether it's the pro scene or whether it's the competitive scene, things like that. So this new segment that I'm going to be starting off is called Plat Chat. So if you guys are familiar with watching Twitch streams or whatever, you know that when somebody makes a dumb play or when somebody does something that may not necessarily be professional level, it's Plat Chat. Okay. What I noticed is that a lot of the different channels on YouTube that do, Overwatch content, they're grandmasters or they're masters or at least they're diamond. And in case you didn't know, the game is a little bit different up there. That's why the people on the professional stage are, the professionals and not those of us who are in plat or in gold. I hover between like 2400, 2500 right now, and the game is very different here than it is at the professional level. So when you have these pro casters and when you have these analysts that are giving, advice about Overwatch based on high level gameplay, sometimes they miss that what they're saying doesn't even apply to most of the player base, because most of the player base is, in this bell curve where a lot of people are stuck in gold, and what the pros are saying or what the analysts are saying don't always make sense. They don't always travel down to here. So that's what Plat Chat is going to be about. We're going to talk about competitive mode. We're going to talk about professional strategies and things like that, but through the lens of a plat player or through the lens of a gold player. Okay, where this will apply to a lot of different people who watch this video, and hopefully, hopefully we'll be able to make some sense of it as it applies to us. So today we're talking about 3 DPS. 3 DPS. So I don't know about you guys, but I've been running into a lot of 3 DPS comps in the past 3 weeks or so. Basically, more than half of the matches I play lately have been 3 insta-lock DPS. So more often than not, I've got to go into the voice chat and I've got to say, okay, are we really doing this? Like, that's just my default catchphrase now is, are we really doing this? Because sometimes people will pick Torbjorn or people will pick Widowmaker and you'll laugh about it and then they'll switch, right? So I ask, are we really doing this? And usually I'm met with silence, right? Usually they don't say anything, because if they're insta-locking DPS, they know that what they're doing is like frowned upon, right? They know that what they're doing is frowned upon, so they're not going to say anything because they know the kind of response they're going to get from people. So usually I say, are we doing this? They don't say anything. And now the 3 of us who aren't playing DPS are trying to scratch our heads and figure out, okay, how are we going to work a team comp around this? Are we going to go 2 tanks, 1 healer? Are we going to do 1 tank and 2 healers? Well, what are the DPS we're running? Are there any synergies here? Can we pick a tank that synergizes with them? Can I do like a Zarya grab with a Hanzo ult? Well, if I do Zarya off tank, then do we have a main tank? If we have a main tank, well, then we have a Ryan and a Zarya. Who's going to be able to heal a Ryan and a Zarya by themselves? Are these 3 DPS that we have, are they going to be able to flank and go get health packs? Are we talking a Genji and a Tracer? If that's the case, let's just run 2 tanks. They don't need healing. They can press the I need healing button all they want. They can go find their own, right? So you spend most of the setup time trying to figure out what you're actually going to run, and then you run it, and inevitably it doesn't work. And then from there, you start bickering with people like, oh, why don't you switch? You're throwing. And then the 3 DPS, they sometimes they switch. I'll give them that. Every once in a while they do. And other times they just either leave the voice channel or they just start screaming at you. So why am I telling you this? Well, Plat Chat, 3 DPS applies to most of us. I was going to make this video anyway. But then I was browsing Reddit, as one does. I was browsing Reddit a couple days ago, and I came across a video on one of the competitive Overwatch subreddits of Custa and his Twitch stream, where he actually addressed this issue a little bit. So those of you who don't know, Custa is a Australian Overwatch pro. He plays in the Overwatch League, and he's a support main for the Los Angeles Valiant. So, he's a support player. So take a listen to what he has to say about 3 DPS comps.
what sort of makes me confused about everyone who complains about so much about rank is like we have these DPS players that complain about ranked all the time and like one tricks and shit like that. But DPS players are essentially one tricks. If you're not willing to play like Xayah in goats and shit like that, then you're essentially a one trick and you're part of the problem. And like, especially if you're gonna, if these three guys are gonna play DPS and they're not willing to switch off of DPS because they want to play not willing to switch off of DPS, and then they play 3 DPS. I would rather play off tank when I want to play DPS if it meant that I didn't have to play 3 DPS, because I'm gonna get very salty after losing with 3 DPS, but I'm not gonna be that salty if I win playing D.Va or like lose playing D.Va. At least you like tried.
All right, well, that stings a little bit, right? Like, even at his level, even in Grandmaster, you still have people who are complaining about 3 DPS comps, but you have all these DPS players who, as he says, they're essentially one-tricks, right? If you're not willing to play Zarya and Goats, you're essentially a one-trick, and you're part of the problem. But people don't like switching off DPS. And again, like I said, it seems like it's now more than ever. This has been a recent problem that I've seen in Gold and Plat the past 3 weeks or so. And nothing's really changed, mind you. Ashe came out, but I don't see a ton of Ashe in comp. It's not like, some heroes would come out and you would have insta-lock of the new hero plus your normal other 2 DPS. That's not happening, right? It's not like we're seeing Ashe in every comp. But just all of a sudden, 3 DPS are coming out. The meta hasn't changed, mind you. It's still Goats. It's definitely still a Goats meta. That hasn't changed. But people are just not caring, I guess? So that's part of what I want to talk about. Is for some of it, I don't really have answers. I just have lots of questions. Like, if you are a DPS player going into comp, especially if you want to get better, you should pick up 1 or 2 heroes in the other 2 categories, right? Even if you are a great DPS player, you could be a god tier Widowmaker. What happens if Widow falls out of the meta? Well, she's not totally meta, but, you know, what if you were a Tracer main when Tracer fell out of the meta? You can't do anything. Like, you're done. You got to be able to pick up 1 or 2 other heroes. So even if you're a DPS main, pick up 1 hero at least in tank and in healer. If you're a sniper main, try learning Ana. It's very similar. In fact, if more DPS players played Ana, I think Ana play would get a lot better, because she's basically a DPS character the way you play her, kinda. But a lot of people who have those skills would rather just play DPS. But a god tier Ana is just so helpful. Try learning Ana. You know, D.Va, again, she's got some DPS kind of qualities to her. Same thing with Zarya. Zarya's got that hit scan beam. If you play Symmetra, learn Zarya. You know, there are some ways that you can be a DPS main, but still be able to flex a little bit and not be a one trick. So really the questions I have are, okay, do you not know how to play other characters, 3 DPS people? You know, do you not care about winning? Do you just enjoy losing? Do you really think you can carry that hard? Why are you even in competitive? Why not just go to quick play? I mean, like I said, if a lot of times people who just insta-lock DPS, they don't say anything or they straight up leave the voice channel. Well, at that point, you're creating an environment where there can't be a team comp. You're not listening to comms. You're doing your own thing regardless of team synergies. You're literally turning competitive mode into quick play. Why not just play quick play, where at least there are no expectations of you? I mean, I can't imagine that people who insta-lock DPS are having fun in comp, because then you just have people yelling at you constantly, switch, 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 you suck. That can't be fun for you, right? Why not just go over to quick play where there are no expectations of you? I just, that's what I don't get, is why ruin the experience for other people who really want to try hard? And if you really can carry that hard, then shouldn't you be good at some other characters too? I understand the idea of, well, if I'm the best DPS, you know, they need to be the ones to switch first because I'm carrying. Look, I get that. I really do. And sometimes it pains me when it's clear that no one is going to switch off a character, you know, and there's one guy who's really carrying. And yeah, you want the other someone else to switch off, but sometimes it won't happen. If you have any sort of a soul, if you have any sort of a heart, please, if you see a 3 DPS comp, even if you know how good you are at DPS, maybe give it a try for a minute or so. But once it becomes clear that you can't carry hard enough, please just switch. Otherwise, like Custa said, you're just shooting your whole team in the foot. You're shooting yourself in the foot. Is it even fun? And maybe this speaks to the way that Blizzard handles competitive mode, because there are no repercussions for one-tricking. You can't report somebody for refusing to swap roles. You can't report someone for refusing to change characters. Throwing is, so to speak, legal in Overwatch. Right? The devs don't care if people throw. The devs don't care if people one-trick. That's not a good competitive environment, and they allow it to happen. So, yeah, some of this blame falls on Blizzard. Some of this blame falls on the team that allows these comps to happen regularly without repercussions. Right? If you want competitive mode to be competitive, which I think it's clear that they don't care about, then you would create an environment that's more structured. It's like if a parent doesn't teach their child, right, what's right and wrong, then they can't be surprised when the child does what's wrong. That's what's happening in Overwatch competitive, is people don't care about team comps because there's no reason to. What does SR even mean, right? Why care? There's got to be a way to separate the people who really do care and who really do try from the ones who are just out here to click some heads, I think. But the point that I really want to make is, I don't care how good you are at DPS. If you're trying to get better, then insta-locking DPS might not be the answer, especially if it's clear that everyone else is going to do the same thing, right? I was stuck in Silver for a while, and in Silver it's even worse, where everybody wants to be a DPS player because that's what's fun. But just by learning how to play tank, or just by learning how to play healer, you'll climb up the ranks faster than the other people who are just playing DPS, of course, unless they're just insanely good. The same thing applies in Gold and Plat. If you can flex a little bit, if you can make team comps that, you know, that adjust by the map, that adjust by the enemy team comp, you're going to do far better than if you just try to force something, if you try to force the square peg into the round hole, right? That's what a 3 DPS comp is. You're trying to force something in where it doesn't fit. And maybe 3 DPS meta will show up, right? We've had 3 tank meta. We have 3 support meta right now with Ghosts. Your time will come. Maybe. Asterisk, don't quote me on that. And when it does, that'll be great for you. But until then, flex a little bit. If you care about winning. And if you don't care about winning, then I question why you're in competitive to begin with. And I honestly, for people who like to just insta-lock and do whatever they so desire, I really am curious. That's my biggest question in Overwatch is, are you having fun? Why are you DPS one-tricking? Why don't you care? And why don't you just play quick play? Because that's the environment you're creating for everyone else. There's already an environment for you. Don't ruin it for everybody else. That's a legitimate question. So if there are people out there who want to answer that for me as to why people just one-trick, please let me know. Especially the ones who like will insta-lock DPS, refuse to switch, and then scream at their teammates for asking them to switch. Those are the ones that really get me, right? Because it's like, you're just in this terrible, foul mood where you're swearing at us for trying to play, you know, a competitive game. Are you having fun? Do you like swearing at me? Is that what gets you off? Like, I don't get it. Yeah, maybe you're just having a bad day and you want to take it out on somebody, so you go into comp. Maybe, whatever. Okay, that's cool. Sorry about your bad day. But come on, have some decency, man. So yeah, if there's anyone out there who does that, who insta-locks DPS and then swears at their team when they ask them to switch, please, I want to know what's going on in your head. So what do you think? Am I making all this up? Maybe I've just gotten unlucky and I just so happen to be put in the lobbies where there's 3 DPS. Are you seeing this also? Is this a across elo thing? And let me know how you think we can fix it. I think part of it just has to come down to Blizzard. If they really cared, they would have to step in and say, hey, understand team comp. And maybe put a system in place that's like the endorsement system, but for strategy, right? Maybe we can have some sort of system where you don't just rate people on whether they're a good shot caller, whether they're a good team player, but rate against them if they one trick, if they throw, if they're profane. You know, because a report can only go so far, but if you could also create this ranking system where you put all the people who don't care in their own like subset of lobbies, that would be cool too. I'd be interested in how that would work out. So what do you think? What can the community do to get better? And what can individuals do to flex a little bit? I'm interested to see what you think. Let me know. This is the Haitian Homie signing off in the first episode of Plat Chat. Hopefully we'll have some more soon, and I will see you guys later.